So what I want to talk about today is the negatives of taking the bulk too far. Take it from someone who's been 132 kilos. When I was an athlete, I did multiple shows that required me to bulk to acquire muscle tissue. And a lot of times I did that and I took the bulk too far. And when I stopped competing, I started to realize what taking the bulk too far was. And multiple times of bulking, you learn what the correct way to bulk is. When you start, you just think, calorie consumption is the way to do it. When I started, I thought that as well. I was drinking mass gainers, serious mass. I was eating everything under the sun, nourishment. And these were loose calories, as I like to say. They wasn't actually complementing the bulk phase. I was just filling myself up with as much shit as I can. And again, it probably wasn't optimal to bulk. However, it probably did serve a purpose because I got really fucking strong. But with that being said, negatives of taking the bulk too far, one of the big things is the look. Facially, the face is going to get bloated, the face is going to get inflamed. Typically, carbohydrates hold water. A lot of people retain water in their face. So when I was bulking, my face was, much more swollen, much more puffier. So I do say, beware if you are self-conscious of the visual look that it's going to have on you as well, the facial look that it's going to have on you. So that is obviously facially, because I'd walk into somewhere and someone would be like, oh mate, your face is blown up, and you got to be prepared for that. But I was prepared for that at the time because everything I was doing was getting me to my end goal. So that was fine. I was happy with them comments. I didn't mind. Secondly, the look in terms of excess body fat. Excess body fat. And what I mean by that is just gaining. Obviously, we know in a bulking phase, you're going to obtain a bit of body fat. The goal is to limit body fat, gain as much muscle as possible and limit body fat. So gaining excess body fat is too much body fat. I always had a rule of thumb when I was bulking. I was like, I always want to see some lines. I want to see some abs still. And I want to see some faint lines in my quads. And whenever I lost that, I was like, all right, we're probably taking this too far. Whenever I felt like my love handle was starting to obtain too much body fat, I was like, all right, I'm taking this too far, because we want to bulk and keep muscle tissue. Sorry, we want to bulk and keep body fat as low as possible whilst we're acquiring muscle tissue, Naturally, clothes are going to get snug, clothes are going to get tight around your arms, but with that comes a sacrifice in holding a bit of body fat around your midsection. So I'd say excess body fat and facially were the two things that I had to accept when I was bulking. Performance, lack of pumps in the gym. Lack of pumps, food being so high, carbohydrates being so high that my insulin sensitivity wasn't in a great spot. And I literally couldn't get a pump in the gym. I was going in, I was clammy, I couldn't get a great pump in the gym. And naturally, I never luckily chase the pump in the gym and see it as an indicator of progress. I always chase the logbook, because I do think in the bulking phase is one of the biggest things I always say is a stronger muscle is a bigger muscle. And then I always say, I've never seen someone bench 3 plates with small arms or a small chest. So it has to come somewhat into play. So, I wasn't really alarmed about the pumps, but I was aware. I was always like, okay, am I progressing? Am I getting stronger? Can I move weight? Don't get me wrong, I felt amazing. I could move weight from A to B. And I'm actually going to put a picture on the screen where I was bigger than Andrew Jacked and we were training partners. So you'll see that as well. So I do know what I'm talking about here. And I used to go in and I just used to focus on being as extremely strong as possible. But I did notice that I had a lack of pumps due to insulin sensitivity and the way my body utilized food, because I was just shuttling a lot of carbohydrates in all day, not just around the workout window. And that's what became the issue. My body works best when I preserve carbs in the AM, I preserve carbs in the PM, and I have a big influx of carbs pre and post workout. That's when my body works well, when it breaks down and utilizes carbohydrates to its best effect. And then that's when I elicit the best possible pump. What would I also say is the decline. And this is something I talk about massively. And I try and put this into a term that people understand very simply. So the decline, what do you mean? I got to 132 kilos. I was always my strongest at 125. And why? Because anything above that, I used to decline. So imagine your body, this weight, your body uses energy carrying this body weight. So anything above 126, 125 to me was just excess body weight. It wasn't serving a purpose to my journey. So did I get any stronger within that 7 kilo parameter? Absolutely not. No, I didn't. So was there any point being that much heavier? Absolutely not. Because imagine I was, walking in the gym wearing a weighted vest. my body's gonna expend a bit more energy to accommodate holding that extra bit of weight on that weighted vest. So it's the same with my physique. I put on extra weight, my body was using food to sort of accommodate having excess weight, which actually didn't serve a purpose to my training. The excess weight didn't serve a purpose to my goal. From 125 to 132, I didn't get stronger. So I always say find a happy balance and happy medium when it comes to your bulk as well. Because again, you can run into a position where your training starts to decline. And mine started to decline the heavier I got, because my body was using food as energy just to carry me around day to day. It's like if someone 80 kilos, all of a sudden wore a 10 kilo vest all day, their body's going to use energy to accommodate that. So it was sort of the same notion that we had here. One of the biggest negatives was appetite, no food desire. And what I mean on the back of that is absolutely zero interest to eat whatsoever. Obviously, when I was competing, I used stuff like insulin to sort of help facilitate carbohydrates, take the pressure off my pancreas, and induce an appetite. Without that, at the time, I had no desire to eat. I was eating 1,000 calories every meal, 6 meals a day, 6,000 calories. And the pre and post workout when I had an extra 500 surplus. So we can do the maths there. And I had no food desire. That was a negative of taking the bulk too far. I was force feeding meals, you know, and what does force feeding meals do? Digestion, gut lining. So I was pushing that gut lining. Oh, can't get that. So I was pushing that gut lining out, and I was having digestion issues due to the amount of food I was consuming. So I always say to clients now, it's not about what you consume, it's about what you can digest and perform on the back of. A lot of people just consume for the sake of consuming. Are you digesting it? Are you breaking it down? Is it serving a purpose? Are you getting stronger utilizing this food? If you're not, you're just eating for the sake of eating. And again, when I was heavy, my stomach was not distended, but it was always bloated. So again, I was pushing that gut lining out as well. And with the back of no food desire, I had to rely on supplements. This led to me using supplements for appetite, such as AD Ravenous, which is a product by Anabolics Designs, which again allowed me to eat. And then other products such as MK677, GHRP6, a peptide as well. So, going back to it, negatives of taking the bulk too far, the common mistakes, not knowing when to stop, not knowing when I've reached the ceiling of my bulk and finding my happy place is a common mistake. And what I want to put down with that is chasing scale weight. Chasing scale weight. Rather than looking at your logbook, have I progressed this metric? Have I progressed that metric? Do I feel good? You know, how is sleep? How is stress? Your body doesn't see eating as fun. Your body's under immense stress. Is that affecting digestion? So chasing scale weight was one of the issues, not knowing when to stop the bulk. That's one of the common mistakes. And not having a timeline. So not having a timeline as well, you know, I'm going to bulk for X amount of weeks, and then I'm going to mini cut for 4 weeks, get insulin sensitivity in a good spot, get appetite back, and then I'm going to bulk for 6 weeks. Rather, people think you can linear bulk for 10 months. Mini diet phases serve a purpose. You need to be adding in phases of pulling back, getting insulin sensitivity good, and getting digestion optimal. So my tips, bulk efficiently. And what do I mean by that is performance as a metric, using performance as one of the biggest metrics. So performance. Then we sort of look at the timeline of your bulk, actually having it scheduled. And then I'm gonna also say here is food sources. So what have we got here? We're going with tips. Food sources, digestible food sources that sit well with you. I wasn't a guy that's going to fill myself up on a lot of gluten, a lot of bagels, etc., etc. Easy, interchangeable food sources. So, for example, if I was pushing food and my rice limit for myself, say 250 grams, was at its peak, at its capacity, and I couldn't take more, and I was using basmati rice, I would then swap to jasmine rice, because I know jasmine rice for the same value and same volume is higher amount of carbohydrate. If I didn't want jasmine rice, I'd swap to sticky rice. When I had to increase again, because I know the difference between basmati to jasmine, jasmine's higher. The difference between jasmine to sticky, sticky's higher. So starting to understand foods which you don't have to all of a sudden eat loads more, but you could swap food sources. Intra-workout carbohydrates were a great source of, you can call it food or not, that allowed me to get a lot of calories in while I was training, and I was drinking and it felt like I wasn't eating. And again, probably utilizing carb-dense foods around my workout to replenish glycogen rather than eating too much whole foods and having a huge plate of rice where I could condense that down and have, Cocoa Pops and whey around the training window. So this is just my opinion on negatives of taking the bulk too far. So that's just my opinion, and hopefully that helps someone take it from someone who's been 132 kilos multiple times.